Why does it always feel like you're behind? Like everyone else figured out something you didn't? Why does someone else's glow feel like a shadow over your own skin? The ache isn't just that they're better, it's that somehow they make you feel smaller. Keep watching because by the end, you'll understand why that hollow feeling inside when you compare yourself doesn't mean you're any less whole. Everyone tells you to stop comparing, as if that's something you can just turn off. But how do you stop looking at the mirror that's been shoved into your face since you could remember? We measure ourselves in glances, in someone else's laughs, someone else's wins, someone else's way of making it all look effortless. The ache starts quiet. A scroll, a glance, a voice that says, "Why not you?" And beneath it, something colder. "What's wrong with you?" That's the voice this video is trying to meet. Stay, because it's not about making that voice silent. It's about finally understanding why it whispers so loudly. We compare not because we're jealous, but because we're afraid. Afraid that the way we're moving through life might not be enough. And that's the promise this video holds, not advice, but relief. A clarity. That maybe the fact that you feel inferior doesn't mean you actually are. That maybe the parts of you that feel flawed are just parts waiting to be seen without the weight of someone else's definition of worth. It doesn't start big. It starts in quiet rooms. In classrooms. In open fields where someone ran faster, laughed louder, solved things quicker. You felt it then by that tiny pull. Like admiration laced with shame. Because even when you liked them, you didn't like what they reflected back. You felt your own outlines blur beside theirs. You thought, maybe I'm not the type that shines. And even now, this thought clings. Even now, you wonder if you were ever built to stand out or only ever to stand beside. And when someone praises them, their voice, their art, their body, their mind, you smile. But some part of that smile is held together by willpower alone. You feel your chest tighten. You rehearse pride and loop through guilt. Why can't I just be happy for them? But it's deeper than that. It's not that you don't want to support others. It's that somewhere beneath their light, you're wondering why yours flickers. It's not who they are that hurts. It's what their life seems to say about yours. You're not rising fast enough. You're not special enough. You're not enough. That's the wound. So you measure. Constantly. And silently. You compare the page you're still sketching to the canvas someone else already hung, not knowing their room is full of drafts you'll never see. But it doesn't stop the feeling. You look at your body, your voice, your pace, your choices, and you stack them next to others. Thinking if the numbers line up right, maybe you'll feel like you matter, like you're real. But numbers don't see you. They only echo what you fear you're not. Sometimes it isn't jealousy. Sometimes it's despair. You see their lives and think, that road is already taken. Their existence becomes proof that your path won't matter. That's the strange thing about comparison. It convinces you that your uniqueness is a flaw whenever someone else shares your dream. You think, they already did it better, so why try? As though the world only has room for one version of brilliance in any given shade. And when that silence lingers, something inside starts to speak. A voice that doesn't scream, but murmurs, "Give up, stay small. At least you won't look foolish." So you hold yourself back without even knowing. You stop sharing. You deflect compliments. You laugh off the things you love. Because you're already convinced someone else did it better. But inferiority has a weight you carry even in your quietest moments. It shows up when you wake up and feel like the day doesn't need you. It trails behind you in group photos. It sits beside you when you're surrounded but feel unseen. Not because people aren't looking at you, but because their gaze never seems to point through to the real you. The one aching to be enough as you are. There's a part of you that wants to believe you're valuable. That wants to walk into a room and not scan it for hierarchy or worth. That wants to exist without translating every experience into rank. But comparison makes you a stranger to yourself. You start viewing your life not as a story, but a checklist. And if someone else checks the same box faster, love, success, joy, healing, you feel erased. It's subtle. It's not screaming. Some days you don't even notice it. Other days, it steals everything. You don't just feel like you're not winning. You feel like you're built to lose. Because if your best effort still puts you behind someone else's casual flow, what does that say about you? But here's the truth. Other people's strengths highlight what we were taught to believe matters. If someone's beauty stings, maybe it's because somewhere you were told beauty is proof of worth. If someone's success haunts you, maybe it's because the metrics of success were fixed long before you ever chose your path. We don't feel inferior because we truly lack value, but because we were trained to place value more in image than in essence. And when we start believing that, we start hollowing. Not loudly. Slowly. We laugh a little less honestly, dream a little less daringly. We play it safe until safety feels like home. But home without self-belief isn't comfort. It's quiet despair. The kind you can't explain. The kind that watches opportunities pass because you already decided they weren't yours. Keep watching, because this is the part where it starts to make sense, where the pain gets a name that isn't shame. We start over-identifying with the part of us that lacks. We see ourselves not as people growing, changing, trying, but as gaps, vacuums waiting to be filled with proof. We forget that we are not fixed objects, but unfolding layers. But comparison freezes us. It traps you in a frame instead of letting you be a film in motion. You keep thinking, if I had what they had, I'd feel okay. But when you chase someone else's glow, you forget to notice the kind of light that your soul even wants to give off. And the worst part? You start blending your sense of identity with your perceived deficiencies. You no longer say, I feel less right now. You say, I am less. You take the feeling and let it define you. That's what comparison does. It turns momentary doubt into chronic identity. But your worth was never something to win. You do not become enough by outrunning others. You were always already enough. But the mind doesn't let go that easily. It still whispers, especially at night, when the lights are off and the scroll begins. That's when you see their posts, their joy, their milestones, and you become a ghost in your own life, watching everyone else live while you feel like you're only observing your own potential from a distance. Why does it feel like your timeline never syncs up with theirs? Because your pace isn't late. It's yours. But we're all terrified that being different means being forgotten, that doing it wrong means never being seen. So we perform. We mask our process. We mimic the surface smiles, all to hide the cracks. But cracks aren't ugly. They're proof you kept trying even after being broken. And sometimes the ones we compare ourselves to are hurting in secret. Sometimes their light is flickering too, but they won't show you that. Just like you won't show them how lost you sometimes feel. We're all comparing highlights to heartbreaks, and it's not fair to either version of yourself. But here's something you might not have heard. Inferiority isn't a moral failing, it's a survival strategy. A distorted one maybe, but still rooted in something tender. You crave mattering, you crave certainty. Comparison makes you feel anything, even if it hurts, because feeling less is still easier to hold than feeling invisible. Even pain, when named, feels more bearable than numbness. And when that realization hits, it softens the ache. You're not broken for feeling behind. You're human for wanting to belong. The parts of you that compare are just asking, do I have a place too? And yes, you do. But not on their terms. On yours. That's not an answer. It's a beginning. Revisit the version of you who started comparing. Maybe it was a child who thought love had to be earned with achievements. Maybe it was a teen who thought silence meant they didn't matter. Maybe it was yesterday. Whoever first felt it, they deserve to be met with grace, not shame. The urge to compare comes from an innocent place, a wish to be chosen, wanted, remembered. So when you feel inferior, maybe what you're really feeling is fear, that you'll always be a step behind, that people only value finished things, that your in-progress self doesn't deserve applause. But that's not true. In the silence between the applause, growth happens. And your worth lives in that silence, not in the cheer. And if no one else sees it, that glow, that grit, that resilience, it doesn't mean it's not there. Sometimes you are the only witness to your becoming, and that is still holy. You've lived a life they haven't. You've felt things they never touched. You've survived storms in secret, smiled through soil, bloomed in corners. So how could you ever compare gardens when you never had the same storm? Let that be the beginning of your tenderness toward yourself. Let that be the moment you stop measuring your beauty by borrowed definitions. Let it be okay to unfold slowly. Let it be okay not to look like them, to not even want to. And maybe one day, when the voice whispers again, you'll pause. Not to fight it, not to silence it, but to look at it and say, I hear you, but I don't have to shrink anymore just because someone else shines. Your journey is not a race. Other people's presence isn't your absence. You, right now, in all your imperfect trying, you are not lesser. Maybe it feels like you are. But feeling small doesn't mean you are small. You are space, you are echoes. You are the room filling with your own voice for the first time in years. And if no one claps, clap inwardly. The loudest applause is the moment you choose not to disappear. Because the truth is, you were never meant to blend. You were meant to burn. Softly or wildly, but as your own flame.